Hello and welcome. I'm Austin Kovalarczyk, arranger and composer, bringing you episode 10 of Book Review, officially bringing an end to holding up my fingers to signal the start of the episode. Right, so today we've got a neat one. This is one of my favorite books I read for this channel, and one of the few I've started reading for the channel. The Life and Music of Bela Bartok by Halsey Stevens. Missing its dust jacket. So this isn't a new book by any means. This is the revised edition, the one I'm reading. Came out in 1964. But I've been on a bit of a Bartok kick recently, and this was a gift from a professor of mine who retired at the end of last semester, or 2 semesters ago now. So I was super excited to crack this open. The book was written by Halsey Stevens, who was a bit of a Bartok scholar, as well as being a professor at a few different colleges throughout his lifetime, and a composer on top of that. If you read up on him, like I did while writing for the video, the book comes up and is listed as a definitive study of Bartok's music, with a quote from Aaron Copland, stating, "Mr. Stevens' book makes one want to rehear the Bartok works in light of what the author has found in them," which is pretty high praise for any book, in my opinion. So the book itself is split into 2 segments, life and music. So it starts with a biographical study of Bartok, then it dives into an in-depth analysis of his music, divided into a few different segments. But before we get into that, there's a neat little segment I want to touch on right before the table of contents, after the preface, to the revised edition at least. There is 2 pages titled, "A Note on Pronunciation." Yes. So it explains how Hungarian, as one of the Finno-Ugric languages, each word is stressed in the first syllable, regardless of the length, and how each letter of the alphabet only has one sound, which, in my experience, is pretty similar to Polish. Not that I'm some great linguist or understand a lot of languages, but I think it's awesome that Stevens took a second to touch on that. I find it really valuable, especially because there's a lot of Hungarian words spread out in here. He even talks about how the naming convention is switched in Hungary, where the family name comes before the given name, kind of like it is in Japan or China. That's pretty typical naming convention in Asian countries. So I think it's interesting that that also appeared in Hungary. But they, for the most part, switch it around and use the westernized version of given name, family name. Right. So the main content of the book, like I said, is 2 segments, starting with the biographical one, then the analysis of Bartok's work. The biography is split into 3 segments: 1881 to 1905, 1906 to 1921, 1921 to 1945, and is an excellent and in-depth exploration of his life. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a delight to read. You learn, as I've been learning about reading about my favorite composers, you learn they've got a lot of weird quirks. Yeah, I'll stop there. We're not going to talk about my exploration into Percy Grainger, which was eye-opening and concerning. I regret that. Right, so the second segment is the analysis of Bartok's music. To make it a little more manageable, Stevens divides it into sections. He talks about the piano music, the vocal music, the chamber music, parts 1 and 2, the concertos, the orchestral music, and the dramatic music. Each section, obviously, discusses the music that the section is titled after. There's a ton of super, super fascinating information in here. It just kind of breaks down every single one of his major works. It doesn't touch on a lot of his student work, more of his professional level stuff, but it does touch on some of his student work just to kind of give that growth sequence. There's varying levels of detail, which is nice because I kind of enjoy the 10 or so pages dedicated to Duke Bluebeard's castle, but if there was 10 pages for every piece in Microcosmos, this book would get long very fast and would get very boring. So, I'm very happy with the different, they were well-chosen levels of description, I'd say. As it stands, the book is already a good 364 pages long, with the last 60 or so being the bibliography, notes, chronological list of Bartok's work and the papers and journals Bartok himself wrote. So, as to availability, there are copies of the revised edition still floating around on used book websites. You know, maybe some on Amazon. As I said, this one was a gift to me. Coming from someone who I believe bought it in '64, actually. Though I'd have to check with him the next time I see him, which, up in the air. My research has revealed a third edition, published in 1993, edited by Malcolm Gills, which is probably the first result you get when you search for the book. I don't know much about the changes, just what's listed on the Amazon synopsis, which is like slight edits, and there's a lot of added photos, which I thought was really cool. The second edition is a bit cheaper, mostly because there are a lot of used copies, and I don't think there are any new ones being printed. So there is additional content in the third, so keep that in mind. There are probably also some first editions hiding out there. I couldn't find any in my very cursory search on the internet. I would love to find one. I am one of those nerds where, you know, picking up a bunch of editions of the same book to see the changes would fascinate me. As you can tell by the fact that I am doing book reviews on a YouTube channel. Yeah, so the revised edition seems to run on average around $10, some cheaper, some a little more expensive, depending on, you know, state it's in. My copy's a bit beat up, or a bit well loved, I'd like to say. There's a bit of water damage on the top. And the new edition seems to run around $20 for a copy. So, you know, fairly affordable book. In my final opinion, this is a great book. I enjoyed it. I mean, it's real simple. It's a biography of Bartok, first and foremost, and then a very, very in-depth explanation of a lot of his music, which would be helpful. I read it kind of just straight through as a book. I read it over on family vacation, actually. So I didn't have a lot of scores with me. So I assume reading through this in conjunction with looking at his scores would make it a little more easy to understand, and probably listening at the same time, which I'm excited I could do that. Another recent acquisition of mine was a study score, the string quartets of Bela Bartok, which has all of his... Wow, the glare on that was terrible. The string quartets of Bela Bartok, which has all of his string quartets. So maybe I'll go back through the book in conjunction. See what I think. But yeah, as you can probably tell, I'm a bit of a Bartok fanboy, and if you've seen my last two reviews, it's not hard to see why. I've got a very healthy respect for his work, his ethnomusicology work, and it was really kind of nice to see how that evolved through the biography portion of this. So if you've got an interest in ethnomusicology and one of its early forefathers, I think this is a great book if you're interested in the concept. Or, I mean, if you specifically really like Bartok's music, which I do. This is a great read. I might buy the new edition at some point. Like I said, I'm one of those nerds who enjoys seeing the differences between editions. And it would be cool to see the photos. Bartok was very camera shy. Did not appreciate people taking pictures of him. I'd recommend, if you're going for the book, probably get the newest edition. I assume it's the most correct and most up to date. And, of course, the additional content with extra pictures would be interesting as well. But, you know, if budget concerns are a thing, go for the revised edition. It's really cool. I enjoy it. Either way, I'm going to assume it's going to be a fascinating read if you're into this kind of stuff. Bartok specifically, or ethnomusicology, like, in a wider sense, or even ethnomusicology-inspired composing, which I check all three boxes, so I thought it was a great read. I'm nerding out right now. Sorry. So, either way, if you've got a copy, if you're interested in buying one, I'd love to hear your opinion on it. Leave a comment in the comment section below. And if you like this review, feel free to like the video. Subscribe, check my channel. There's a bunch more. As I said, this is episode 10, which is interesting to think about. I've been doing this for a while now. And yeah, you know, whatever you want to do. I'd love to foster any kind of discussion in the comment section. So if you leave something, I'll probably respond. You know, not exactly a huge channel. But yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know if there's any books you'd like me to take a look at. And yeah, that's that. That's all I got. I'll see you next time.